Dispatch, may I help you?
Yeah, did you get any reports or any objects in the air about 15 minutes ago?
Somebody called in, but I really don't know what that would be.
It was very strange.
It was coming down Sampson Drive. It looked like it was moving. I don't know what it was. It was a flying saucer.
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane. Oh, Jesus Christ, please be a plane. Oh, please. Come on, I ain't ready for this.
On the night of December 14th, 1994, in Trumbull County, Ohio, a mass UFO sighting took place, which left citizens and multiple law enforcement agencies frightened as they tried and failed to chase the anomalous craft. For years, the event was contained and concealed from the public. It was only discovered and brought to the light of day by a simple accident. In early 1996, the late UFO investigator Kenny Young would begin uncovering the Trumbull County UFO incident by mistake, while trying to dig up information on a case written about by UFO investigator Leonard Stringfield. Stringfield was an expert on the topic of UFO crash retrievals, a topic that has returned to the surface of UFO discourse recently with the claims of UFO whistleblowers such as Lou Elizondo and David Grusch.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
In Stringfield's UFO Crash Retrieval Status Report number 6, he wrote, "Of interest, but not treated as an issue in this paper, are the frequent reports of giant fireballs that are witnessed traversing the skies and which seem to crash somewhere into the horizon. Probably most have simple astronomical explanations. Also puzzling are the reports of fiery airplane crashes, sometimes accompanied by explosive sounds. Search teams probe and find no wreckage, but calculating distance, especially at night, can be tricky. Albeit some of these mystery phenomena may well have been a doomed UFO. Once identified and the point of crash determined by satellite sensors, their recovery, as always, would remain secret. The media will follow up a scandalous crime story, but never challenges the word of an opportune authority who opts to call a descending fiery object a meteor. His word finalizes the story and the mystery. A scenario of events similar to the aforementioned circumstances occurred within a week or so in southwest Ohio in the period of December 1998 to January 1989. On January 6, the Cincinnati Enquirer reported a meteor-like object that streaked across Ohio skies, triggering emergency calls from tri-state residents who thought the object landed in their neighborhoods. It was probably a meteor, said David Dzinski of the Cincinnati Planetarium. On February 9th, 1989, Ray Stanford, a veteran researcher, phoned me from his home in Maryland to report that he had received a report of a possible UFO crash near Dayton, Ohio on December 26, 1988. Witnessed by the assistant police chief of Liberty, Ohio, and a companion, an amateur archaeologist from Urbana, the object was described as a gigantic ball, bright lime green, changing to orange. Watching it cut a tunnel through a low bank of clouds, the object then descended straight down and crashed. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was called. An expedition looked for it, and there was nothing in the news. During this time frame, I recall a big news story in Cincinnati reporting a fiery airplane crash in the vicinity of Houston Woods, north of Cincinnati. Local and state police investigated. Volunteer search teams looked far and wide. Nothing was found. It would be a highly unusual coincidence for a meteor to be the answer for all three events. These types of events have been recorded in Fortean literature for decades, so it's no surprise that an intrepid investigator like Kenny would decide to follow up on Stringfield's research on this possible UFO crash in Dayton. He decided to make some calls and see what he could find. By a stroke of fate, Kenny was given the wrong number by the operator. Instead of calling Liberty, Ohio, he called Liberty Township, a different Liberty, Ohio. Kenny had no idea that he was in contact with the wrong Liberty, Ohio, so he began asking his questions to the Liberty Township Police Department, asking if they had any information on a UFO incident from a couple years ago. They affirmed this and began to provide Kenny with useful information, to his surprise. But after 2 weeks and over a dozen phone calls, he was confused. The notes and information he collected from various interviews seemed to have nothing to do with the case from Stringfield's files. It began to dawn on Kenny that his investigation was uncovering an entirely different UFO case, one that the public knew nothing about. Kenny compiled the information into a report on his now partially defunct website, UFO Research Cincinnati. The report sat on his website for 2 years before he received an email from an individual who worked for the Trumbull County 911 Dispatch Center. It was this individual who would provide Kenny with the tapes. Through the assistance of 2 telecommunicators within the Trumbull County 911 Dispatch Center, information was made available concerning a stunning UFO incident happening in December of 1994. The information relevant to this case, which I had previously requested from the former operations manager who is no longer employed at the center, has been researched by 2 telecommunicators with the Trumbull County 911 Dispatch Center after acquiring the date of the incident from an unnamed officer with the Liberty Township Police Department. Their research efforts were conducted strictly as private citizens. For a nearly 3-week period, I corresponded with 2 telecommunicators at the 911 center relevant to this incredible case, and the audio tape copies are now in my possession as of Monday, June 1st, 1998. The telecommunicator who conducted the investigation was not fully aware of the UFO incident and was not on duty the night of the occurrence, but had heard of the sighting through others at the 911 center. Being highly intrigued by what had happened, he was left totally baffled after reviewing the dispatch tapes, saying, "This all seems so unreal." The telecommunicator, acting unofficially, has made the effort to transfer all of the calls and radio traffic regarding the UFO incident onto an audio tape. He said that several Saturday afternoons have been spent retrieving the information. Some of the police dispatches and radio traffic are unrelated to the UFO disturbance, and the irrelevant dispatches are being left out. "This is a real interesting look into what happened that night," said the officer. "It's unreal." The UFO was seen by officers from many different departments for several hours, according to the officer. The log tapes reflect massive radio and telephone correspondence between midnight and 6 a.m. We suspect that whatever was there was seen both north and south in the county, in 2 separate areas at the same time. Thus, over an hour worth of dispatch audio has been released to the public, all of which detail the unfolding of the UFO incident that night. As we go along, I will play the relevant parts of the tapes, with the audio enhanced so that you can actually hear it. December 14th, 1994. Before midnight, 4 different individuals from Youngstown, Ohio, called 911 to report sightings of a bizarre craft hovering over homes in the vicinity of Sampson Drive, many describing a blue-green, luminous object. The initial 4 pre-midnight calls are now lost because the tapes were reportedly swapped out at midnight. The 911 dispatcher who dealt with many of the calls that night, Roy Ann Rudolph, initially dismissed the calls, presuming the frightened callers were either inebriated or merely pranksters.
Bob, I swear to God, 4 calls in on an unidentified object over Liberty.
4 calls.
4 calls on an unidentified flying object.
According to dispatcher Rudolph, the first caller was a female who Roy didn't take seriously. She dismissed the caller as hysterical and said that the woman feared Armageddon was actively taking place because of the sighting of this strange object in the sky. However, after midnight, the calls continued to roll in.
Did you get any reports of any object in the air about 15 minutes ago.
Somebody called in, but I really don't know what that would be.
It was very strange.
Okay.
Looked like a back end of like one of them fighter planes, like a plane coming out the back.
Okay. Was it just like moving at a slow rate of speed?
It wasn't a slow rate, it was a fast rate, but it was coming down.
It was coming down?
Yeah.
Like straight down or at an angle?
Like an angle.
At an angle? All right. I'll tell you what, we'll check with the air base in Vienna and see if they have any report of anything in the area.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
After that call, Royan then contacted a police officer on duty, identified as Unit 996 on the dispatch audio, to ask if the officer has witnessed anything strange. Dispatcher Rudolph offers to call the Vienna Air Base, as she told the concerned caller she would, but the officer tells her he will go take a look himself. One woman reportedly called a local news reporter, Stacy Adger, to report a large, red, glowing object hovering at treetop level near her home. Soon enough, Stacy would call 911 herself to ask about the UFO sighting.
County Dispatch, can I help you?
Yeah, dear, this is Stacy from 33. This is going to sound really dumb. I hear Liberty Police are in an area that I got a call about a little bit ago. A woman called, claimed she saw something in the sky. Okay. I hear they're out there and they've got another call.
Yeah, we finally got one on it somewhere.
What the woman told me was on Sampson Drive, like midway in the block, there's a vacant lot or something.
Hold on, I'll let you talk to the Liberty Dispatcher.
Okay.
County Dispatch, may I help you?
Hi, dear. This is Stacy from 33.
Hi, Stacy. How are you?
I got one of your...
Did you really?
This woman was almost...
Serious. Sorry.
She saw something. She told me that the area was like Sampson Drive. There's a vacant field midway through the block.
They're telling me this too, but it's probably some weather balloon or something. You know what I mean? They're checking the area, but these UFO calls are getting out of hand.
I don't know what it is.
If it was, what the hell did they come to Liberty for? There's no intelligent life in Liberty. Come on.
After basically laughing off the entire incident with Stacy from Channel 33, another frightened citizen called 911 to report the bizarre object hovering above her home.
County Dispatch.
This is Liberty Police.
Pardon me?
Am I calling Liberty Police?
What you need, ma'am?
I wonder, did you have anyone call you about a strange plane or airplane or something in the air?
Yeah, they're checking it out.
Yeah, I just saw it on Sampson Road.
Where?
On Sampson Drive.
Okay.
It was coming down Sampson Drive. It looked like it was, I don't know what it was. If it was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. It was not an airplane. It was down awfully low.
Are you the same lady that called Channel 33?
No.
Okay.
Dispatcher Rudolph's attitude toward the UFO situation gradually changed over the course of the night. The dam began to break when one of the officers reported catching a glimpse of the UAP, which was causing such commotion.
98.
And then he got...
See some lights. It's over 1 block from me. I'm going to try to get over there. I got to go down the street here. It's a large object, whatever it is. I just got a glimpse of it. I could see... I'm on Sampson right now. I could see it heading by 5th Avenue on the other side. I could see some lights up in that area. It was like a red pulsating light.
Okay, radio was advised to be blue and green.
I saw it was red. It was like a pulsating light. It looked like it was like the bottom of the airplane, but it was real big.
Okay, we're trying to contact the air base this time. Stand by.
Growing increasingly unnerved, Dispatcher Rudolph decided to call the local airbase, desperate to find a satisfactory explanation for the UFO sightings which are now being visually confirmed by police officers. She feared that the sightings could result in pandemonium. The airbase denied that there were any objects in the sky within a 60-mile radius, which confused dispatcher Rudolph. She felt that there was no way everyone was having some sort of shared hallucination, that there must be something in the sky, given the sheer amount of sightings from frightened citizens and now police officers themselves. Though Unit 996 caught a glimpse of the object, it would be Sergeant Toby Maloro who would experience a close encounter with the object. When the call from dispatcher Rudolph came in, Sergeant Maloro and another officer were having a coffee. Maloro, of course, didn't take the claims very seriously either, and took his time to respond. He thought that the citizens were most likely overreacting to a low-flying plane. Rudolph hoped that Maloro would radio back with some kind of explanation that would pacify the frightened callers. As he reached Sampson Drive, the area where the UFO was spotted, Maloro continued driving along the dark and empty road until he saw something in the street. A seemingly dazed and confused elderly man was walking along the road. He flagged down the police officer and informed him that he just witnessed a strange bright light above his house. Maloro would later state, "I wish now that I would have gotten his ID or found out who he was. The poor man was evidently lost, and he kept saying, 'It was right above my house.'" The elderly gentleman told Sergeant Maloro that the lights were heading south, so the officer followed suit. As Maloro continued driving roughly a quarter-mile further down Sampson Drive, his cruiser came to a dead stop. The engine and all electrical systems went out simultaneously. Quote, "Everything shut off in the vehicle. I didn't understand what was going on. My car completely stopped." As Maloro attempted to restart his engine, the entire area was illuminated in an eerie red light which illuminated everything, quote, "as bright as daylight." I stood outside. I was a little bit dumbfounded. I didn't know what exactly it was. I had to shield my eyes. The light was extremely intense and blinding. While Maloro shielded his eyes with one hand, his other hand instinctively went for his pistol on his holster. The light appeared to be brighter toward the center of the object. Quote, "I've never seen anything that could compare to this, and the thing that was very strange was, there was no sound." Maloro was able to make out the shape of a circular object, which appeared to be emitting the light. After 30 seconds, the craft silently zoomed away and Maloro's cruiser came back to life. Quote, "As soon as it started moving off, my car started back up and the radio kicked on." Sergeant Maloro was badly shaken by the incident. So much so that when he radioed back to dispatch, dispatcher Rudolph was confused by Maloro's statement. She had been worried about Maloro since his radio went out, and she lost contact. In a later interview, Maloro would state that the UFO was at least the size of a football field. He would also state, quote, "Obviously, it had to be involved in my cruiser shutting down. There was no problem with my car because it started back up. I was told that it may have been the planet Mercury. It was not the planet Mercury. If it was a plane, then it must be a new plane because I've never heard of a plane that doesn't make a sound. I'm not saying what I saw was a spaceship from outer space. Okay, what I'm saying is I saw an object that was not normal for this area, which gave off an intense light, shut my cruiser off, including my radio. I lost contact with the 911 center, and it didn't make any noise. It's something I've never seen before, and I've never encountered before." After collecting his thoughts and regaining his composure, Sergeant Maloro called back to dispatcher Rudolph to report his close encounter.
I'll be out of service for a few minutes. I have to gather my thoughts.
Happy gathering.
Getting back to the UFO, I saw it.
Did you really?
But if it was red, I don't know. People saying it's blue. Right? I I pull up to this
County just saw it too.
down. He goes, hey, this thing's hovering right over Sodom Hudson. It just came over my house, right? I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, right? You could see a red glow up in the sky. It was huge. It was like huge.
See, but they're telling me blue-green because the media called. This woman was crying hysterically. She's like, oh my God, and she's screaming, and they're like, oh God, and they call me, and I'm laughing it off because I can't, I'm not going to cause a panic. Toby, I swear to God, we got 7 to 8 calls on this UFO telling you what they were coming in at the same time. They were coming at the same time, and the county saw it. Somebody from the county saw it.
Well, with me, I saw this big red, it was glowing in the sky.
Well, I said, well, maybe it's a weather balloon. Well, I called up, and Toby, I swear to you, I was laughing it off, and I thought, well, he's going to say weather balloon or something, but he says, no, I don't. He goes, we have nothing. He goes, I'm looking at the radar right now.
Well, this thing wasn't more than about 50 feet off the ground.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, this is low to the ground. I said, you might not pick it up. I said, he goes, well, maybe it's a helicopter. I said, well, I heard from 4 people, something that low to the ground would be making a hell of a noise.
Whatever it was, lit up, literally lit up. You could stand, if you were underneath it, you could see it would be like daylight with red light.
Well, I logged it. I know this is coming back up. I know everybody and their brother's going to be calling tomorrow.
After Maloro's sighting, the saucer flew off and was then spotted by multiple other police officers. At this point, according to Dispatcher Rudolph, at least 14 to 15 officers said they saw something and were discussing it freely on their channels. On this portion of the audio, we hear multiple police officers coordinating with one another as they triangulate the position of the UFO and attempt to chase it.
Yeah, that thing has not moved in 10 minutes that I've been watching it. I want to come and check it out. Come up on Henhide and start south off of Kings Grave if you're on Henhide. Come on down, you'll see me parked. I've been watching this thing through my binoculars. I can't quite make it out. It changes colors from white to red to green. Those are colors of planes, but this sucker has not moved. It hasn't gone any direction since I've been watching it. It's a good 10 minutes. I would think the airbase could get a pretty good eye on it. Okay, Mikey's up here with me now. He's looking through the binocs. It looks like it might have moved just slightly because it moved from one side of a tree to another, but it's still visible right here where we're at. Look like it's doing circles? Yeah. But, it isn't moving.
What area is it in?
Huh?
What area?
Hang on 1 second. Okay, where you're at and where I'm at, I'm about half a mile south of Kings Grave on Henhide.
They all see it. We were all on Henhide. We didn't see it.
Okay, well, we're on Henhide north of Kane. Okay, there's a brand new house under construction, and we're watching it right through the empty field.
You're seeing it through the field?
Yeah, we're seeing all our cars
are parked out of... What color is it? Because I got three of them.
It ranges from like a whitish red to pulsating greenish lavender.
Do you see any red? It was a whole red light. He said it looked like...
Well, from the distance, I can't tell. My binoculars are a cheap set of binoculars. I thought I saw some red. Let me check with Dave from his angle. Do you see red and green on it? Hey, Dave, from your angle,
I'll call the airport.
Pulsating red and green?
I'm telling you, we went outside, we didn't see anything.
Yeah, what?
I'm calling the airbase again.
Okay.
Hold on, just stay on the line.
The object traveled into Howland Township, where Patrolman Hray chased the UFO out of his jurisdiction and drove to the Vienna Air Base to get a better look at the object.
2223 to control. 2223, good. Okay, I got a visual on both of them. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We have multiple departments right now that have sightings on it. Okay, I got them both. I got Howland, looks like it's in the area of Warren Road, and I got Liberties, it looks like it's down near Hubbard. Okay, it doesn't seem like it moved at all from where I'm at here. Okay, you out there by yourself, or you got someone out there that's documenting the observation also? Yeah, I'm at the airbase. I had the security guard out here. He doesn't know what to make of it either. You want me to get a visual on it? Oh yeah, we can see it from right here.
At the airbase, the security guard also saw the object and had no idea what it was. Later on, as Kenny investigated this case, he was able to contact and identify Officer Hray as the policeman who chased the UAP to the Vienna airbase. I attempted to get more details regarding the Howland officer who traveled to the airbase to confer with the security guard regarding the December 14th, 1994 UFO disturbance in Trumbull County, Ohio. I called the Howland Township Police Department earlier in the week and was told to call during the day. This afternoon, I placed another call to the Howland Township Police Department. Sergeant Compton, who spoke with me next, could not locate any records relevant to this event and said that he had no knowledge of this incident. He did have familiarity with the layout of the airbase and said that the security staff there are employees of the Department of Defense. After midnight, there is no air traffic until morning. Usually, the facility is basically shut down during the overnight/early morning hours. He expressed interest in the UFO incident, and I informed him of the unit number for the gentleman who, on the tape, traveled to the airbase. He said he would look into the story and call me back. After 2 p.m., Sergeant Compton telephoned me to inform me that I was on a 3-way speakerphone conversation with the actual officer who traveled to the airbase. Patrolman Hray discussed the incident and declared that the event was real and that the object in question was something he could not identify. On the speakerphone with Patrolman Hray and Sergeant Compton, I was asked to play a portion of the tape back to them so they could hear the radio traffic. Hray confirmed that the voice on the tape was his. Hray then gave some more information on the incident. He said the object was definitely visible from the airbase, at times appearing very low. The Howland officer stressed that he only saw one object and didn't recall the event lasting a 6-hour duration as initially related. He said the duration of the incident was around a half hour or so. The officer told of how he was pursuing the UFO, which he described as a bright light with no visible structure. He could never seem to get near the object, as it always moved away when he approached. His pursuit of the object led him slightly out of his jurisdiction, but he still proceeded to the airbase, where the UFO was close by. Upon driving his police car up to the airbase, the Howland police officer summoned the security guard from his post and indicated the UFO to him. They both stood and viewed the object for nearly 5 minutes. The object would appear rather close at times and would occasionally drop behind the trees. As relayed on the 911 tape, the security guard could also not identify the strange object. The Howland police officer is unaware if the security guard, a DoD employee, made a report on the incident and does not know the identity of the security guard. The Howland police officer felt that the object, which was visible from the security post at the entrance to the facility, should have been visible from the vantage point of the FAA tower operator at his 70-foot elevation. When asked about the positioning and visual capabilities of the FAA tower operator relevant to the UFO, he said, "I assume that he would have seen it." The object was described as an extremely bright blue object. Other officers reported a structure or attachment seen on the UFO, but the Howland officer informed of no structure or protruding element seen on the object from his vantage point, and described the phenomenon as good-sized and fairly bright, sometimes appearing pretty close to his position. Another officer, Lieutenant James Baker of the Brookfield Township Police Department, was off duty during the incident, but heard the frantic radio chatter and became intrigued. Quote, I had no idea what was going on. You had so many calls coming in from different locations. I wanted to see for myself what everybody was looking at. I drove to the old radar tower. This is the highest point in Brookfield Township, and I'm told in Trumbull County. After listening to the other officers witness and chase the UFO, he decided to do some investigating of his own. He jumped into his patrol car and drove to the abandoned radio tower, which would serve as a perfect vantage point to search for the airborne anomaly. He pulled up to the tower, got out of his cruiser, and began climbing the ladder to reach the top of the abandoned radio tower. On this portion of the audio tape, we hear Lieutenant Baker relay his sighting of the UFO to the 911 operator. He affirms that they were not planets and that the entire event was unreal.
I can see him.
Did you see anything?
I got him right here. I'm looking at him.
What the hell is it?
Well, I can see him from Warner Road. They're sitting stationary. I got 3 of them. One is over, well, there, and then there's 2 kind of close together.
What do they look like?
Well, I'd like to say that they're just like flickering stars, except I've got 4 discernible colors. I got red, yellow, green, and blue, and the one just was like flashing. So if they're those planets those guys were talking about, then they're planets with Christmas lights on.
You can see them?
I can see them. Not like clear as day. I don't see any wings or anything to see them.
But you see lights?
Yeah.
Unreal.
Hold on a second.
Unreal. What are you doing?
That's what I mean. I mean, I can, without my binoculars, I can see red, yellow, green, and blue. They're so far away, they look like stars. They're just like huge.
Well, the first calls we got from Liberty were they were like 50 feet above the ground.
Yeah, well, they could be on their way home.
All right. I think everyone else in this county should go home.
Yeah, I'm about ready to. This is weird. I had a bead on them from the tower. They were close. They got to be going away because they were closer than this. Now I'm looking at them. Oh my God.
What?
And they're not a plane because here goes a plane, and I can see the plane, and the plane's blinking red, and the fact that there's another plane. I think
they're scrambling planes out of SATCOM 1 to go check them out.
Wait a minute.
What?
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane. Oh, Jesus Christ, please be a plane. Oh, please.
What are you doing?
I ain't ready for this shit. Hold on. Little bitch, where'd you go? That's a plane. Oh, thank God. Well, I get nervous when they're coming right at me. There's 3 planes up there. I'll tell you what, they're flying from the Air Force Base.
Really?
Something's got to be.
Oh, really?
4 up there now. There's 4 planes.
Oh, okay.
What the? No, I mean, the other things are still there. But these are like, you don't see them. Pricks. All right, what are we doing with this now, Pete?
Well, I have no idea.
Well, you know what? I can tell it's not in our airspace, so it ain't our call.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
In a later interview, Baker would state, "I see 3 lights changing colors, and I've heard no concrete explanation of what they are, and I certainly would welcome any explanation." They formed a sort of triangle pattern, with the center light being raised up above the other 2. Oddly enough, they were changing colors simultaneously, from red, yellow, blue, and green. All 3 lights would change at the same time. Perhaps this can explain why witnesses described seeing the UAP in multiple different colors. In this portion of the audio tape, we hear Baker further affirm that what he's seeing is not a planet nor a plane. The officers do see planes in the sky and suspect that jets are being scrambled to go check out the object. The UAP ascended into the sky and eventually vanished. Of the incident, Dispatcher Rudolph would later state, "I do believe that they saw something. I don't believe that it was a star. There was something there." What I walked away from that night was a feeling that this was a lot bigger than just a couple people saying they saw a light in the sky. And it made us think that maybe a small place like Trumbull County can have something big happen occasionally too. During his intensive investigation of the Trumbull County UFO incident, Kenny Young interviewed Stacy Adger, the reporter from WYTV Channel 33, who received calls about the UFO incident, called 911 to confirm that there was an ongoing, unexplained event, but failed to ever report on the incident. Quote, delving further into the mysterious affairs surrounding the 1994 Trumbull County disturbance, I contacted a Miss Stacy Adger, a news reporter with WYTV Channel 33 in Youngstown, Ohio. Adger is the reporter whose voice is heard on the 911 tapes, inquiring with the Trumbull County Dispatch headquarters of the UFO situation. I first spoke with Stacy Adger on June 8, 1998, and asked her why this story was never reported and how such an incredible event could have been kept quiet for so long. She said that she was off work in the 2 days following the incident and nobody else ever reported on the situation. She said that while she was off, she did some checking into the story, but nobody would tell her anything. She added that she was fully aware of the numerous UFO reports and the police pursuit of an unknown object. I asked Stacy about the FAA involvement with the report and where the FAA tower was in relation to the airbase. She said the airbase and airport are both in Vienna, Ohio, adjacent to one another. This is the same area where the UFO was sighted. Adger said that if the security guard was visually observing the UFO from his vantage point at the airport, there is no way the FAA tower could not observe the UFO, especially from a 70-foot elevation and using binoculars. She was aware that a Howland police officer, Patrolman Hray, was standing alongside a security officer at the airbase and both were observing the UFO. Neither could identify the object. Stacy said that she called the airport herself that night and talked with the same FAA tower operator who was on the tape. This man told her that people were pulling pranks and there was nothing on radar. She recalled the first woman who phoned in and said the woman was extremely scared. The woman described the UFO as a bluish-green object that was really close to the ground and had lights associated with it. I told Stacy that I had been advised by the 911 telecommunicator who furnished me the tape that she was going to be sent a copy and we would be the only two recipients, aside from several police officers who wanted a copy for their own curiosity. I asked her if she had received her copy. She said she has listened to it 5 or 6 times now, and each time was thunderstruck by what she heard. I asked if she conveyed information of this to others, and she said that she has not. She announced that she was the only person in the news media who had the tape. She has not told anyone because she, quote, wanted to check with certain persons involved, whose careers may be in jeopardy, she was inclined to suspect. Evidently, she was led to believe that the tapes were removed from the regular storage area and were hidden in another part of the 911 center. Adger felt that the tapes may have been hidden purposefully. In my reflections of this entire situation, the news staff of WYTV Channel 33 in Youngstown, Ohio is largely to blame for this story being concealed from the public. Certain persons on the news staff have been in full possession from the beginning of this remarkable account. No efforts were made to report on this event. Even after acquisition of these incredible tapes, this valuable data has not been addressed, and there has been no indication that it will yet be pursued. Following my June 8 phone call, I assumed that reportage of this incident would shortly commence. This has not been the case, and I am under the impression that the staff of Channel 33 longs for this matter to be swiftly swept aside and forgotten. Kenny then directed his investigative efforts towards the Vienna Air Base. Given that from all the information he had gathered, he knew that the officials in the radio tower should have been able to visually confirm the sightings of the object. Kenny suspected that it was possible the object was detected on radar as well. Quote, from various interviews, it has been determined that the UFO seen by the police officers and base security personnel would/should have been observed by the FAA controller in the radar tower, which was situated at a nearly 60-foot elevation. On the 911 tapes, the controller informs that he cannot visually observe the object and adds that his radar screens indicate no traffic in the area. Interestingly, Kenny interviewed a Hubbard police officer in 1996 who stated, "Most people don't realize that this airbase out here is one of the best kept secrets in the whole damnable country. Don't kid yourself, you wouldn't believe the hardware." After making several phone calls, Kenny was able to get an interview with Captain John Keetak of the Vienna Air Base Office of Public Affairs to inquire about the Trumbull County incident. Only upon the first few utterances to Mr. Keetak of my call, he immediately broke into dismissive comments, stating repeatedly, "I assure you that did not happen. It never ever happened. This is all pure fiction." Stunned and floundering by his unshakable comments, I could tell that the tone he was establishing for this telephone discussion was a harsh one. "Look, Mr. Young," Keetak argued with a paced, assured methodology, "we can go through a lot of time here, but I'm telling you right now that this never happened." His remarks were made before I could ever explain the basis of my inquiry. "Let me tell you," he soundly guaranteed, "that when things happen here, they get passed on to me. I've been at the base since June of 1989. I am Chief of Public Affairs, full-time, not a weekend warrior. I am intimately aware of everything that's going on around here. What you are saying, Mr. Young, has never happened." I took my turn at bat and set the record straight with Captain Keetak, explaining to him my acquisition of 911 tapes and witness interviews with police officers involved, one as recent as earlier this same afternoon. I then offered to forward Captain Keetak a copy of the tape. "I don't know what information you have," he declared, as if in full combat mode, "and even if the information you have is valid, no, sir, I am not soliciting your information. Everything you're telling me is suspect." Jumping into gear with Captain Keetak, I explained that he must have been aware of certain details prior to my call, as he was presently denying a situation which I had not even advised him of. "Are you a UFO buff?" Keetak asked in a belittling tone. "No, sir. I am a UFO investigator. I have no reason to solicit from you any information regarding the incident you are referring to, and from my frame of reference, the incident never took place." Keetak went on to challenge my investigative pursuit of this case, and said that if I had conducted an adequate investigation, I would have been informed by the local news media that the event never happened. I then informed Keetak that I had contacted numerous media agencies relevant to this specific investigation and had spoken at length with a reporter from Channel 33 News in Youngstown, Ohio, who was well aware of the incident. "No, sir," Keetak affirmed. "I know Miss Stacy Adger from that station personally, and if something like that would have happened, she would have told me. I did not get one call or query." I then advised Keetak that it was Adger herself on the 911 tape calling the dispatch office, and explained that I too had spoken with Adger, and in my discussion with her, learned that she had indeed contacted the FAA tower. "I find that incredibly hard to believe," Captain Keetak said. "And being as actively involved with the news media as I am satisfied that there is no basis for your inquiry." Whether or not he would have been later advised by the tower operator of a call from the Trumbull County 911 dispatch office reporting a UFO situation, he said that he would have been given the information. I asked him if he would have been told of the encounter a security guard had with a Howland Township police officer at the entrance regarding the UFO situation. He said that he would have certainly been given that information. Keetak said that each morning he reviews all incident and blotter reports and has never seen anything relevant to such an event at the airbase. He added that such an unusual entry appearing in blotter reports or incident logs would stand out to him. "Look, I'm not just key staff here, I'm the base public affairs officer. I inform the commander and key staff when something of media or public interest is to be dealt with." I asked Captain Keetak if he was interested in investigating this case with me, and if he would care to confirm the event for himself by contacting the 911 dispatch center, or speaking with the Howland Township Police Office I spoke with earlier in the day. He did not give any indications that he would seek to confirm the information for himself. When asked about the number of persons routinely on duty during the overnight hours, the public affairs officer stated that there is normally a certain amount of security and fire department personnel on duty during the graveyard shift. He said that in the December months, there may also be heating and cooling personnel who would have been on duty. He added, however, that time and attendance records are kept for only 2 years. Captain Keetak then declared, "You might have very good intentions or incorrect information that you have misinterpreted. I can't say, but I assure you that this never happened. I have not previously heard of this." He then went on to add that he was aware of a flying saucer flap happening nearly 18 miles north of the base in the fall of 1989, but he stressed that the reports were unrelated to the base itself. When asked about the details of military jets reportedly in the air in pursuit of the UFO near the airbase, Keetak advised that the jets wouldn't have been dispatched from the Vienna facility. "We have no jets on alert here. It's not like you see on TV. Any jets in the air would have originated elsewhere." He informed that no logs would be available to indicate visiting flights, as such log entries appear only when such traffic lands for refueling or other purposes. He sought to deflect my inquiry about the FAA tower controller by claiming that all calls and aircraft routing is handled by Cleveland after midnight. "Does that mean that the tower is unmanned?" "No," he replied. He went on to complain that the person in the FAA tower would have told him about such an alleged happening. As I began to explain about the 2 calls placed to the FAA tower by the 911 dispatch office, he commented, "I've even been called at home on civilian aircraft incidents, and they surely never called me about this." I then expressed to Captain Keetak that despite his certainty that the event never happened, and his lack of interest in my investigation, I would be sending him a copy of the 911 tapes, which I explained most normal people would be curious about. Along with the tape, I informed him that a Freedom of Information Act request would also be enclosed, relevant to the UFO incident. He indicated that I may be wasting my time. That concluded our strange telephone conversation. Keetak was the public affairs officer I spoke with back in 1996 regarding the same investigation, and he employed the same approach then as well, abrasively telling me, "You've been blasted with wrong information." I regret this afternoon's conversation degenerated to a point-counterpoint dispute, but the tone in which Mr. Keetak handled my good-natured inquiry was anything but productive or cooperative. Prior to even knowing the details or the nature of my call, he was denying the event. During the phone call this afternoon, I made the decision to engage Captain Keetak on the same level he had confronted me on, and soundly refuted each dismissive comment he made by referencing my acquisition of 911 tapes, witness interviews, and media inquiries. He had no sound rebuttals to deflect my comments. I believe my decision to meet his confrontational tone was warranted because my approach was measured with compromise and an acknowledged good faith approach to the inquiry. I explained to Mr. Keetak that, despite his lack of information, that an unusual event did happen, and that I would be neglecting my duties as an investigator if I were not to make the present inquiries with his office that I was undertaking. I thought it very interesting that he had no personal desire to acquire more information from me about this event, and did not seek to confirm it for himself by contacting the 911 center or speaking with the officers involved, who I offered to put him in touch with. I would suspect that it would be one's duty or concern to acquire and verify such information, if not for his own interest, then for the benefit of the facility and the department he represents. His absolute denial of the event, without being advised of any investigative findings, indicates a strong predisposition against any objective take on the Trumbull County incident and a surprisingly defensive posture. Kenny Young's Freedom of Information Act request to the Vienna Air Base was flatly denied. They told him they had no records to share relating to a UFO incident from that date. He also requested the identity of the FAA tower operator through the Freedom of Information Act, and this request was also denied. During his investigation, he learned that all of the air traffic controllers present that night were shortly fired or otherwise relocated at roughly the same time. A very similar sequence of events followed the Lake Michigan UFO incident, which took place in December of 1994, the same year. Stacy Adger was, quote, aware of rumors that the controllers who had been employed at the tower in the time frame surrounding this incident had been reassigned across the country, despite FOIA requests asking for such information. Nothing has been advanced to shed light on this aspect of the story. During a 1996 interview with a tower supervisor, it was stated that all of the controllers were fired at roughly the same time. These comments from a female operative were within the context of the UFO inquiry and in direct response to questions regarding their whereabouts. There was, however, no indication of wrongdoing, as the term implies. Given that would justify their dismissal, such an admission would probably not have been furnished anyway, without any direct information equating this collective dismissal/firing with the UFO incident. It may be important to reference. The needfulness of this reference can be drawn from the Michigan 911 situation, also from '94, where it was reported that the radar operator involved in that case was somewhat elusive when researchers sought to contact him, as he, too, had been reassigned elsewhere. A similar case of reassignment is the East Lake County, Ohio case from the late 80s, in which U.S. Coast Guard employees witnessed a spectacular UFO and afterward could not be located by reporters due to their relocation and new duties. This establishes a certain precedent from which soft reference and concern can be justified. Three main skeptical arguments have been put forth in an attempt to debunk this incident. The eyewitness testimony of numerous citizens of Trumbull County, as well as over a dozen police officers, already provides a sound refutation to the argument that something mundane took place that night, but I'll go through the skeptical arguments anyway. It has been suggested by some skeptics that a sky crane helicopter was misidentified as the UFO or UFOs that night. Kenny Young brought up this possibility to Captain Keetak in an interview. Quote, Captain Keetak was asked about the possibilities of the UFO seen on December 14, 1994, being a misidentified helicopter. Not from this base, he said. Keetak informed me that no helicopters are stationed at the airbase, which is an Air Force Reserve facility. Since 1953, the base has never had helicopters stationed here, although there have been several visits by helicopters periodically through the years. Keetak was asked about the helicopter scenario, since it has been postulated that two sky crane helicopters were seen flying in or near the Vienna Air Base several days prior to the strange December 14, 1994 incident. This hypothesis was advanced by an unknown officer within the Liberty Township Police Department, who reportedly observed the helicopters and mused that the UFO sightings could have been due to one of these helicopters. There are some very sober reasons to doubt a helicopter involvement with the Trumbull County affair. From what is known, there is nothing that would lead one to suspect that a helicopter would engender the visual reports descriptively recounted by citizenry near the Sampson Road vicinity, where the callers were reporting an object with flames. Later, certain officers dispatched to the scene, witnessing and even pursuing the object, reported no sound in conjunction with the sighting. The engines used in a Sky Crane helicopter are not HUSH-equipped engines, nor designed for silent performance. Various descriptive statements are on file, ranging from a red rotating saucer to a structured object with a parachute-like appendage. One police officer reported the visual perception of a red light which was huge and illuminated the ground as if it were daylight. Such a powerful red light is not a routine headlighting feature of a Sky Crane or other helicopters. Even considering the possibilities of witness misperception, the descriptive characteristics of a saucer-shaped object, the rotating ballistic or flight performance, its silent operation, flames, and brilliant red light, when collectively gathered, work strongly to eliminate a misidentified helicopter scenario. Additionally, it would be unclear what purpose a Sky Crane helicopter would have flying above a residential neighborhood during the unusual midnight hour, and as reported, hovering for an extended duration. Such nighttime operations above a residential neighborhood for these helicopters are generally not routine, further lessening the chances of a misidentified helicopter scenario. Captain Keetak said on July 22, 1998, that there were no construction projects ongoing in December of 1994 that would warrant a Sky Crane helicopter at the airbase, and he also said, from a safety point of view, no helicopters would fly in the evening. Furthermore, the FAA tower operator who was contacted by the 911 dispatch officer during the UFO sighting advised that there was no radar track of any aircraft in the specified vicinities, and additionally stated that the Youngstown FAA screens painted no aircraft within a 60-mile radius of Youngstown. Sky Crane helicopters are not routinely outfitted with stealth radar evading technology. If such a helicopter were operational during this time frame, there is every indication that it would have surfaced on radar at some point, even if flying at an abnormally low elevation. Some suggested that the UFO was a misidentified medical helicopter, but that simply doesn't fit the facts. Kenny Young was able to soundly rule out this possibility as well. Quote, "A call was placed to the Northside Medical Center to determine if air care helicopter flights were active in the area on the night of December 14, 1994. The call was transferred to security, where a Mr. Jones was kind enough to conduct a search of the logbook for the information. Jones said that the logbook records helicopter flights to or from the helipad at the Northside Hospital. Every flight coming in or leaving this hospital is documented. They are logged in and logged out. We have to open the pad and prepare the fire extinguishers. All that is recorded." Jones conducted a search through the logbook for all flights to or from the hospital in December of 1994. He was informed that the date of December 14th was the day in question. There were no helicopter flights to our helipad on that date, Jones said. The only listing for helicopter flights to the Northside Hospital was on December 10th and December 23rd. The hospital itself does not have a helicopter of its own, nor do any other hospitals in the area. Helicopters arriving at the Northside helipad are usually the Metro Lifelight Unit or the Stat helicopter out of Pittsburgh. It was indicated that an unusual sighting of an aerial object near Sampson Drive was being investigated, and I asked if it was possible that a helicopter could have recovered an accident victim from this area and transported the person to another hospital instead of Northside. "No, that wouldn't happen," said the security officer at the hospital. "If something happened on Sampson Drive, they would have been taken to one of the two local hospitals via ambulance. If necessary, they would then be flown from there elsewhere to Cleveland or wherever. The Northside helicopter theory is squashed. The helicopter scenario strongly contradicts the event as we understand it from close review of witness testimony, conflicting in both visual as well as audible characteristics described by witnesses to the incident. In the NBC special Confirmation, which featured the Trumbull County incident, astronomer James Magaha presented a hypothesis in an attempt to debunk this case. However, as you'll see, his theory, if you can call it that, has all the hallmarks of pseudo-skepticism. The actual facts and details of the case are ignored in favor of creating a straw man. Quote, Magaha asserted that twinkling stars were to blame for the event, and a simple fireball was responsible for the light reported by Officer Maloro. The shutdown of the patrol cruiser, Magaha proclaimed, was sheer coincidence, while the fireball was seen overhead. Mr. James E. Magaha, I am sorry, sir, but your suggestions were most irrational and inappropriate given the facts of the Trumbull County situation. You did demonstrate a powerful lack of understanding regarding the key data elements of this case. Eliminating this entire affair with an all-encompassing explanation of this nature denies and disregards key details such as officers were responding to a citizen advisement of a UFO situation. It was not a police-only affair. The location of the primary object was triangulated by several units, approaching from different directions while corresponding via radio. This could not happen had twinkling stars been a factor. Eyewitness testimony indicates varying descriptive details given. A blue flaming object, a mass of light which illuminates the ground, a structured object, a parachute-like appendage spied through binoculars, and a, quote, massive rotating saucer. These specific comments, using selected terms to describe the visual observation of a low-level object, have been ignored by Magaha. His deletion of key details is not scientific and should be recognized as such. Note that visual separation is established by officers involved who were able to recognize stars and planets versus the UFOs. Visual separation is also established by the officers who report jet aircraft later flying in the region. Stars were clearly differentiated between the jet aircraft and the UFOs. By appearing before cameras suggesting an explanation so fraudulent provides us with a suspicion that Mr. Magaha's motives were ideological and not valid scientific concerns. Interestingly, during my interview for the confirmation special last summer, I soundly refuted Magaha's suggestions even before his interview was conducted. For reasons I cannot fathom, those refutations were deleted from the piece. The Trumbull County UFO incident bears many of the classic characteristics of true, unidentified anomalous phenomena. We have many cases on record where UFOs appear to play a game of cat and mouse with police officers or military pilots that attempt to pursue the object. This happened famously in the 2004 Nimitz case, wherein Navy fighter pilots engaged with a Tic Tac UAP. The Trumbull County case is also reminiscent of the 1966 Portage County UFO chase, which I've covered on the channel previously. That case also involved police officers from different locations encountering a saucer UAP and engaging in a high-speed chase after it. The Trumbull County mass sighting preceded a perhaps even grander incident the very same year in Holland, Michigan. This incident, which I've discussed previously, also involved a mass sighting of UFOs which frightened the public, with hundreds of calls pouring in to 911 to report the object. That case too remains unexplained. We have the dispatch audio for that case as well as radar data and interviews with radar operators who openly admit that anomalous objects were detected. Interestingly, in the Trumbull County tapes, we hear that UFOs were reported 2 weeks earlier as well as the day prior to the Trumbull County incident. The UFO also appeared to exhibit an electromagnetic effect on Sergeant Maloro's cruiser, a recurring element in many close encounters. His cruiser was disabled while in the presence of the saucer and, without apparent reason, began functioning normally again when the UAP departed. Another recurring element in the close encounter history present in this case is the UAP illuminating the surrounding area as if it were daylight. When the saucer hovered silently over Maluro's cruiser, it illuminated the entire neighborhood, as bright as daylight, in Maluro's own words. I've discussed multiple instances where this allegedly took place on the channel. Similar cases were analyzed in a study by Jacques Vallee titled Estimates of Optical Power Output in 6 Cases of Unexplained Aerial Objects with Defined Luminosity Characteristics. Published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, the study demonstrated optical power output from UFOs which ranged from a few kilowatts to thousands of megawatts. The 5th case detailed in the study, which took place on June 19, 1978, in Goujon-Mestras, France, closely mirrors the luminosity exhibited in the Trumbull County incident. Quote, "The UFO triggered the photocells that control the lights for the whole town. From the distance and the threshold level of the cell, it is possible to derive an estimate of the power output of the object." A local newspaper described how 2 frightened young men, an 18-year-old cook named Frank Pavia and a 17-year-old butcher's apprentice named Jean-Marc Guittard, knocked at the door of a baker who was preparing the next day's bread at about 1:30 a.m. The teenagers had stopped on the side of the road to repair the turn signal of their car when all the lights of the town were suddenly switched off. At the same time, a powerful rumble like an earthquake made them jump. They then saw the object. It was, by their descriptions, oval, red, surrounded with white flames, and it flew toward them at an altitude they estimated as 11,000 feet. At this point, Jean-Marc became unable to breathe and fainted. The object then changed direction and flew away. While telling their story to the baker, who reportedly laughed at them, both witnesses were reportedly terrified, had trouble speaking, and Jean-Marc had red, teary eyes. At approximately the same time of night, a 35-year-old restaurant manager who was driving saw a large orange ball, very bright. The manager of the town utility department was also interviewed. He showed the investigators the location of the photoelectric cells that control the lights. When these cells are exposed to a light that exceeds their threshold, 10 milliwatts per meter squared, they assume that daylight has arrived and they turn off the system. The results of the analysis bracket the distance between the cell and the UFO between 135 meters and 480 meters. In this case, the UFO's brightness exceeded the threshold of the town's photoelectric cells, causing the streetlights to go out, meaning the UFO's brightness mimicked daylight in that it triggered the same response as natural light above this level. In this case, we can estimate that the energy output ranged from the kilowatt to megawatt range. The French UFO organization GPAN estimated that if the luminosity of the UFO acted as black body radiation, then the energy output could have ranged from 160 kilowatts to 5 megawatts. I think it's safe to assume that a similar, or at least comparable, optical energy output was exerted when the UFO hovered over Maluro's car, if it truly illuminated the area as bright as daylight. An average US home uses about 1 kilowatt of power continuously. 5 megawatts could theoretically power around 5,000 homes at once. Surely an impressive helicopter or glowing seagull, as the pseudo-skeptics would have you believe, right? I think the late Kenny Young best summed up the 1994 Trumbull County case. The Trumbull County disturbance remains a volatile mystery. Flaming the drama is the reshuffling of the staff at the FAA tower and the heated denials by the Youngstown Air Base public relations officer, who stated that the event never happened to begin with. Also of great interest is the comment made by the FAA tower operator, who said that nothing could be visually observed, while a security guard outside the very facility in question, accompanied by a Howland Township police officer, watched the UFO. At one point, a second object appeared over the airbase. The disruption of the electronic instrumentation of the Liberty Township patrol cruiser offers viable evidence that should demand this case attain more widespread attention and scrutiny, at which time the skeptical communities and debunking celebrities would have a quality UFO case to thoroughly investigate. A case complete with numerous witnesses, including police officials, reporting a massive, rotating, saucer-shaped red light, which resulted in later Air Force denials and the appearance of a conspiracy.